Okay, so why don't we go ahead and get started this afternoon? Um, I am delighted that we have our division director here, Dr. Erwin Janchandani, who will be introducing this program to us. Erwin, please. Oops.
All right. Thanks very much, Lindsay. And good afternoon, everybody. Good morning, depending on where you might be located or when you might be listening to this. As Lindsay said, my name is Erwin Yanchinani, and I have the pleasure and the honor of serving as the National Science Foundation Assistant Director for Technology, Innovation, and Partnerships. So I lead the TIP Directorate here at NSF. And on behalf of my colleagues in TIP, as well as in the STEM Education Directorate, really all across NSF, it's my pleasure to welcome you to this webinar today. Our second webinar for the Finders Foundry effort that we have initiated over the last few weeks. Fostering interdisciplinary networks to develop emergent and responsive solutions foundry. It's, of course, a mouthful. We love our acronyms in DC. But we're really excited to be able to welcome you all to this webinar and to this session to be able to field questions and answers as well with regard to this initiative. As I'm sure you've seen, our objective with Finders Foundry at the end of the day really is to try to be able to bring together in a very meaningful way uh, K-12 educators, technologists, parents, guardians, and researchers to be able to develop the innovative solutions that will help us overcome some of the persistent challenges when it comes to learning and workforce development. We want these challenges to be surfaced by the folks who are experiencing these challenges. So the students, the families, the educators. And we want sort of a hand-in-glove approach through this effort where we are really building those teams that can help co-design, co-create solutions that can ultimately be scalable. How do we get to ultimately evidence-based, rigorous practices, tools, and technologies that allow us to be able to at scale, really improve learning outcomes and prepare students for the 21st century. And as we think about that, I think it's particularly important for us to consider not just how are we preparing students with some of the best technology that can be brought to bear in classrooms, in formal and informal learning settings all across this country, but at the same time, how can we also prepare students for that digital AI-driven future that we are all seeing before our very eyes? And I think in that way, it's really important for us to emphasize that this particular effort around NSF Finders Foundry aligns well with sort of the NSF's priorities, the NSF strategy, as well as the administration's priorities and strategy when it comes to how we can ensure that we are preparing America's youth for the jobs of today and tomorrow, including with the introduction of AI into so many different sectors and so many different parts of our economy as we go forward. We're really excited about this effort. We're also excited about the fact that we are collaborating with philanthropic partners to be able to drive progress here, both in terms of helping to envision this program and helping to sort of co-design the program itself as we think about how we can ultimately bring these solutions to bear. I want to thank the folks who are instrumental in being able to pull something like this together. We wouldn't have a Finders Foundry effort but for the folks who you see on this call who will be guiding you through this webinar today. I want to especially give a shout out to Lindsay and Mary, who have sort of been with this from day one as we've been conceptualizing this. Also, everyone else across TIP and EDU here at NSF who's helped to give shape and character to what we're trying to do with this effort. Also want to thank our partners across the spectrum who've come to bear to, again, provide the resources, the expertise to be able to really unlock at the end of the day those evidence-based practices, tools, and technologies to be able to improve learning outcomes for our students and our talent, starting at the K through 12 level and on up. Finally, let me just take a moment to thank you all as well for your engagement. When we started the TIP Directorate here at NSF 4 years ago, we had sort of a very specific mission that a bipartisan Congress gave us, which was to accelerate technology to the market. That's something that we're trying to do with this program, to be able to help grow a workforce that is competition ready in a whole host of key technology areas, including in AI and related areas. That is also something that this program is trying to do. And thirdly, we sought to be able to do that in every corner of this country. How do we ensure that we are lifting up talent? How do we ensure that we are enabling that talent to be able to access and leverage technology as we go forward to help drive solutions to some of our foremost challenges as a nation? And that is also something that this program is aiming to do. So it's very well aligned with the TIP mission space, the EDU mission space, STEM education here at NSF, as well as NSF's priorities and the administration's priorities as we go forward. So this only works, though, through your engagement. And by that, I mean the engagement of our educators, our technologists, our parents and guardians, our researchers, all working together to be able to unlock solutions to these persistent challenges in learning and workforce development. So thank you all as well for your engagement. And we're very excited to not only hear your questions about this effort and how you can engage and participate, but also to have your proposals coming into this program so that we can fund some great work as we go forward. So thank you all very much. And with that, it's my pleasure to turn it back over to Lindsay to drive the rest of this webinar.
Thank you so much, Erwin. Thank you for joining us today and for that lovely introduction. I think you've basically given us a lovely overview of the program. So I think we're done here. Is that right, folks? Are we done? Oh, and then he left. All right. Well, I
No,
suppose
you still have a lot to do to get into the details, but I hope it's a helpful frame.
it's a wonderful framing. We appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining and for giving a shout out to all of the folks behind this program. Some of us you see on screen, but please trust me when I tell you that there are many individuals whose faces you do not see. But with that, a quick agenda of what we are going to discuss today, and we are going to leave space at the end to make sure that we address all of your questions. We've received so many inquiries through our Finders Foundry email address, so thank you for those of you who have sent those in. We want to share with you our team, and we'll give an overview of the program, the steps and the resources that you need to hopefully submit your planning proposal. And then we will get to the requirements of those proposals, and lastly to the questions and answers. A quick note that we are recording this webinar. The first webinar we also recorded lives on our landing page for the program. This webinar as well should live on our landing page within the next week or so. So thank you for your patience while we get all of that up and running. We have a PDF of this entire document that you will have, you actually probably already have because it was when you registered, I believe, for this webinar, but it also is on our landing page. And the questions are not open yet, but we will open them at the end. And the intent there is that we hope to answer as many questions as possible through the webinar, but of course we will open up to the questions at the end. We also are going to be dropping some helpful links at the end to direct you exactly to where you might want to go to address or to answer your questions. But before we do any of that, I think it's important to share with you the team of Finders Foundry at present.
You need to share your slides too.
Oh, am I not sharing slides? I see slides on my end. Kaylin, do you see my slides?
I do see your slides.
Oh, I do now too. Sorry about that.
It's all good. It's all good. Well, so now that y'all are unmuted, if you would be so kind, Mary, I'm just going to call you out first. If you would please introduce yourself to our friends and colleagues who are joining us today.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mary Crow. I'm the section head for the Workforce and Capacity Building section here within TIP. Super excited to have been part of this team pulling together Finders Foundry. As Erwin said, I also want to thank all of you for the hard work that you're doing and the ways in which you are trying to improve the learning environments for everybody. So super excited that this is launched, and we can't wait to answer your questions today.
Thanks, Mary. Kaylin, you were unmuted, so if you wouldn't mind sharing with us.
Yes, hi, welcome everyone. My name is Kaylin Casey. I'm a contractor supporting the Finders Foundry program. Excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Kaylin. Ashley?
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Ashley Easley. I'm a program analyst here in TIP. It is so nice to meet everyone, and I'm so glad to see the numbers that we have for this webinar. Welcome.
Thanks, Ashley. I'm Lindsay Portnoy. I apologize. I didn't start with the introduction. I'm one of the program officers on the Finders Foundry, and this really has been quite a labor of love and such a joy to work with my colleagues to build this and bring this to you. I'm really overwhelmed with the reception that this program has received, and really excited to see what you all bring to bear, as Erwin shared at the top of this conversation. So thank you for being here. Such really an honor to be here with you all. So I think Erwin really did a beautiful job of framing it for us. The Finders Foundry program is a two-stage funding mechanism. And the first stage, if I can just take I don't know, a 30,000-foot view, is really about getting folks to team together, to work together across spaces, across areas of expertise in collaboration, right? Between folks that are educators and caregivers and students, families, and technologists, so the folks who have the requisite skills to build the technologies that will be helpful in service to our learners, and the researchers who will be able to help identify, measure, track as you hopefully create these technology innovations that will hopefully scale, that will be co-designed, all of these stakeholders together, that are grounded in real learning and real workforce challenges. How does that happen? Great question. We'll share that with you in a moment. The idea of this program, of course, is to create an ecosystem, a sustainable ecosystem of technology innovation that really combines folks that maybe otherwise wouldn't have found one another, right? We are really looking to help you find one another through this foundry. And we really are hoping that these community-driven designs ensure that the innovations that you co-create are relevant in the specific contexts, and that will become clear as we share more about the dashboard, and also innovation that is viable as it scales, right? So as it moves to hopefully be including all of the learners in a particular topic area or age group or whatever it may be. The program prioritizes active participation, right? So active participation of all of the stakeholders that you see in that top line, the educators, the students, technologists, families, researchers. We prioritize technical literacy, early and regular engagement. We've received a lot of inquiries about what is engagement and what role should different individuals play. Hear us when we share with you that it's active engagement that we're seeking, early engagement, ongoing engagement, and of course, engagement with emerging technologies, including AI, which really helps to position our learners in navigating and shaping what we see and you see every day as a rapidly evolving economy, digital economy. So with that, I don't know if I missed anything there, but a lot of the questions that have come in, and hopefully this is helpful to you all, each team that submits, again, there's a planning proposal that comes in first, and the spirit of the planning proposal was in service to you, our community, that you would find one another to work together across these 4 different buckets, I would say. Every team must have an adjacent facing K-12 educator, right? At least one. You can have many, but at least one. They must have a technologist, right? What does it mean to be a technologist? Well, you should demonstrate the requisite expertise of that individual to build the technology that you hope or aspire to build. Again, I would say it's incumbent on the team to say that this is the individual who is qualified to do this role. It is also required that every team has a researcher. So researchers, we're talking about folks that are experts in studying the design, design, measurement, analysis, and of course the rigorous evaluation of learning outcomes. And lastly, every team must have someone who's representative of the parents, guardians, or caregivers. Now, a lot of the questions that came in last time, and I imagine will likely be coming in today, for instance, I happen to maybe fill multiple of those roles, but as a team member, as one team member, I must pick one role that I'm anchoring on. So if you have kiddos and you consider yourself a caregiver, but you also happen to be a technologist, you cannot fill both of those roles. You still would need somebody to fill one of those roles, while your primary role would either be as the technologist or as the caregiver, just to make sure that we have a nice, robust team that is representative of those unique audiences. So that's a bit about the team requirements. We're going to give a high-level overview, but want to make sure that it's clear that there are 2 steps here. There's a planning award, and only the folks who receive a planning award are eligible to submit for a development proposal. Also important to share, because we've received a lot of inquiries about this, there is no program officer sign off for you to submit to this program. You don't need to put in an outline. You don't have to submit a concept outline to this program, right? The very first stage, while it says planning award, it is still under a research award, and it is for you to plan with these folks that you are working with to co-create a solution. We are really, the spirit of this is to support these 4 stakeholders that we've identified once they are awarded, likely over the summer months, to work together to build the full development proposal, which would allow you all to work in your teams over hopefully the summer months, the late summer months, to put together that full, robust development proposal. I hope that that's clear. But starting again at the top, the initial way that this project launched in the spring of this year was to crowdsource learning challenges direct from educators, learners, caregivers, caregivers, parents, guardians of learners. This is the survey that we have for specifically for educators, specifically for caregivers, specifically for learners. If you don't fit in one of those buckets, don't worry about it. That survey is not necessarily for you at present. But what we have for you at present is the teaming dashboard. Again, we're going to share all of these links at the end of this presentation. So the caregivers, the learners, the educators would respond to the survey and say, hey, this is really an intractable problem in our space that if I had a magic wand, I'd solve it in this way. And then if you are somebody in the audience from a research space, research and technology, technology development space, fantastic. We would say, go take a look at that teaming dashboard. Again, we'll share that in the chat once we're done here and see who in the community has an intractable issue or a really neat possible innovation that you would like to collaborate with, that you would like to team with, that you would like to find and work with together to address. And that would be the team that you would then submit for the planning proposal. The planning proposals are due May 27th, which is just under a month from today. It is not, well, we'll tell you what's in the planning proposal. We anticipate hopefully being able to support around 50 teams. There are some requirements around that we'll share in a moment. They're up to $50,000. Of course, we're looking for these interdisciplinary teams, and together you're going to co-develop proposals that are going to cover the innovation area. You'll have success metrics and team roles identified. I'm going to share with you exactly what is required in a moment. And then the next stage are development proposals. Again, only folks who receive a planning proposal are eligible to submit for a planning proposal. And the intent, of course, is that with that planning proposal, the 50K will give you and your team time over a couple of months to pull together the full development proposal that you then would submit in November of this year. Right? We understand that you're not going to be doing the research yet. You're really just going to be coming together, finding time to work together to write and draft a really strong development proposal that you then would submit in November. And those proposals are up to $300,000. And that is where you say, look, here's the team, here's our eligibility in your planning proposal. And then the development part is where you talk about where you're building, refining prototypes to get to that minimal viable product. I've already given you a big picture here, so let's take it back a step. Mary, was there something you wanted to share on this slide before we go on?
Yep, the only thing I wanted to share on this slide is, I think, a question that we have gotten in after the very first webinar was whether or not you had to pilot anything. Do you have to collect pilot data as part of this work that you're going to do this summer? And the answer is no. The goal of the work that you're doing this summer is to meet as a team and talk about what it is the core problem or issue is, and how you think as a team you can go about helping to solve that using the expertise of everybody on your team. So we're looking for you to have conversations. We're looking for you to be thinking deeply. We're looking for you to look at what else is out there that you might draw in, right? So no, there's not a requirement that you get a pilot done before November. No, no, no.
Thank you. That's a really important point. I really hope folks are hearing that. The intent of the planning proposal was to allow you to have time, as Mary said, to work together to figure out what would be in that full development proposal, which is, yes, where you are going to have all of those questions to answer. I hope that's clear. So please keep chiming in, y'all, if there's additional information we can share with folks. The pre-funding crowdsource survey is still live. This is the survey that I mentioned earlier. I will share this link in the chat with you in a moment when we're done with these slides. Although if you have the slides, you already have the link. And if you're on our program page, you have the link. But the important part is if you are an educator in K-12 facing spaces, if you are a learner, if you are a family member, please, we encourage you to go and submit to the survey what you've noticed, what you've identified as a learner, as a caregiver, as an educator in K-12, as an intractable issue that gosh, you really would love to partner with some of the stellar researchers in this space to help create technologies and do the research on those innovations to see how they impact your community. It's also important to share for all folks who are joining us today that we have specific tracks or categories of subjects that you would, not subjects, rather topics that you would submit to, right? Those project tracks are listed here on the right. They're also listed on the dashboard. So again, we have the survey for the educators, a survey for the students, a survey for the families. Then we have this dashboard of all of these topic areas. Before folks ask, you don't have to use the dashboard, but we strongly encourage that you consider it because the intent, the spirit of the program is really to connect folks across communities that maybe would not otherwise find one another. So you as a technology specialist, as a technologist who maybe you're in academia, you might say, gosh, I really quite like working in my specific technical space. And you might go to that dashboard and you might find that there is a school in a state, 5 states over from you that has a problem that you could help them solve, that you could build the solution to help them solve. And if that really is the case, well, after they submit the survey saying, gosh, we really could use some help in this particular space. This is an example of what the survey looks like. This is what we would encourage the learners, caregivers, educators to look at. We would say, hey, go take a look at that dashboard where all of those requests by topic area, by category, by track rather, live. We would encourage you to go access the dashboard. Again, we'll share the link with you. Identify any of the challenges that you wish to solve. And on the dashboard, there is a link that says contact, right? So use the contact feature. And what it does is it submits your teaming request directly to the individual or individuals that submitted their response to that survey, right? So they will see, you will reach out to them, say, hey, I'm Lindsay Portnoy. Gosh, I would really quite like to help you in addressing this challenge. It sounds really exciting. I'm inspired by your approach to doing whatever it is that you quite like about what they're doing. The things that I would bring to your team are, and you share with them what you might contribute uniquely, right? And I hope to hear back from you. If you want to, have an example of some of my work, I would be happy to share it with you. And I look forward to hearing back, right? So that's going to go directly to them. The project team that's core to this on the dashboard will then reach out to you, right? And find ways, if it works for everyone, to collaborate and draft that initial planning proposal. But really, the planning proposals that you are putting together have to address one of the tracks from the Finders Foundry dashboard, which I think is here. There we go. Okay, so for the technologists, the researchers, the folks that are in the space of measuring learning and education and designing technology innovations, if you were to go to this dashboard and you say, gosh, this one over here really looks like something that I'd like to help out with, and you find that contact button, it will lead you to a space where you can then share your information that helps the team on the other end of this see why you would be a great partner to address the concern that they hope is going to be addressed by your collaborative work, right? So you need to let them know why you would be great as a co-creator. Mary, I see you nodding. I don't know if you want to jump in here. No?
Yeah, the only thing I'm going to add is it could be that you decide you want to reach out to somebody on this dashboard and you don't hear anything back. It could be that that person has already found people to team up with. It could be that they're thinking maybe that technology isn't what they're necessarily interested in. And so know that if you don't hear from somebody, you can reach out to other people on the dashboard as well. And so I guess what I want to say is kind of the control is in the hands of the people who said, this is the problem that I want somebody to help me solve. And so that's why the dashboard is set up the way it is.
Yeah, no, I think thank you. That's a really important point to share is that if you don't hear back from people, that's fine. It might not be a great fit for them. You can still submit a planning proposal. If you do not see yourself or your topic or your concern, not topic, rather, you have to fit to the categories that we have there, the tracks that we have. But if you are not do not receive a note back from one of these teams, you still are eligible to submit. You still have the same eligibility criteria. You still need to make sure that there are representatives from each of those 4 different groups that we talked about at the top of this. So just because you don't hear back doesn't mean you can't submit, but know that we are strongly encouraging folks to partner and to find one another who you might not otherwise have worked with. I hope that helps. I hope that's clear. Hopefully we'll get some additional questions to add even more clarity there. And team, please jump in. For eligibility, we're looking at the traditional, probably what we might imagine is as eligible institutions, education-facing institutions, nonprofit, non-academic organizations directly associated. All of these eligibility requirements are listed in our solicitation. I think what's most important that we'll share with you in a moment is that an organization can only submit one proposal and a PI or co-PI may only submit one proposal, right? So on the core team, which is the PI or co-PI team, only one submission. And of course, hopefully you're seeing now that the goal is to cultivate really seed an ecosystem of collaboration, right? So we don't want it just representative of one space or one place or one institution. Also important, if you've not yet received an award from NSF, gosh, we really hope that that changes. And in order to make that change soon, I'm going to share with you in the link when we're done here what sort of information you should probably get started on doing right now to make sure that you are eligible to receive an award from NSF, including to start by registering for sam.gov if you've not yet done that already. So just a word to the wise to do that because it sometimes takes quite a bit of time. And we are at April 29th, which means you ought to do that probably sooner rather than later. Not sure if I missed anything on that slide. I hope the team will chime in if I have. The planning proposals, of course, due May 27th. This planning proposal is really to support the early stage collaboration. Mary shared this earlier. We are not looking for you to do early research. We don't want efficacy. We don't want to see the results from your pilot study. We want to understand in this planning proposal what you're going to be doing, right, as you work together to build that full development proposal, which you would then submit at the end of it. So it's for 2 months of planning. It is due May 27th, so you can sort of see where we're headed towards this way. It's up to $50,000 for budget information. You can see the solicitation, although we're happy to answer questions here. Just for the purpose of this conversation, the planning proposal structure must look in the way that we share here, which is also in the solicitation rather. The cover page must have the proposal stated with NSF FF planning. It's important that there are only 3 pages. It's 3 pages maximum for the project description. You, of course, will have a page for project summary. And on the project summary page, you will say, hey, this is the track that we're choosing from the Finders Foundry dashboard, right? You have to identify what the track is. You have to, on the project summary, describe the outcomes of the solution, including the areas of application that are the initial target of the tech, right? Where you want it to live, where it's going to be of impact. Then you only have 3 pages. So the 3 pages have to convey who is on the team. It says team composition, right? So the leadership team. So there's the representatives from those 4 different stakeholder groups. Who are the folks on the team? And, you have to make sure that you've got representation and expertise and roles defined for each of those 4 members. You cannot play the role of more than one person, more than one stakeholder, rather. So you may be a K-12 educator and a parent, but you must pick for this subject, you have to pick which one you are going to be serving as in this proposal. You may not be both. So you'll need to have a K-12 educator, you will need to have a technologist, you will need to have a researcher, you will need to have parent, guardian, caregiver representation on this project team. We also would want you to have an overview of the classroom setting, which is where you envision the possible technology being of service to learners, and of course a brief narrative that describes the expertise of the personnel, their specific roles, their responsibilities, their contributions relative to the proposed effort. Mind you, it says proposed effort. We don't expect that you've done the effort. You are just planning here. It's a planning proposal. So it includes, sorry.
Yeah.
Please.
And the other thing related to the brief narrative describing the expertise of the personnel and their specific roles, responsibilities, and contributions. In this space, we are not asking if you are the parent or the guardian or the caregiver on the team, we're not asking you to tell us what your professional qualifications are. We are asking you to describe what are your qualifications in the role on the team. So what makes you an engaged parent or guardian? What makes you that person who is going to be able to represent that larger stakeholder group in this process?
That is such an important distinction. Thank you so much for adding that. So it's important to share that when you do talk about each member of the team, what are they contributing uniquely to this project, right? So we're not, as Mary said, looking necessarily at a CV of an individual from a different space adjacent, but specific to the space. The only other thing that I want to share, because we've received many emails from folks asking about pilot testing. So you will need to have pilot testing in the full development proposal, not in the planning one, but you have to identify who's going to be responsible for that in the planning proposal so that you're thinking forward to how you will enact that testing, because you've already now shared with us the classroom setting that you hope to deploy a possible, technology that doesn't yet exist, but will be created, right? Also important to share, just based on some of the questions that we've had come in and maybe some of the teaming emails that have gone out, and that we've heard back from the community, we're not looking for sort of existing solutions to sort of drag and drop. We're really looking for you to create new solutions to existing problems where the solutions, might not be such a heavy lift, or they might be a heavy lift, but they just don't exist right now. So you are creating something new, something unique that doesn't currently exist to truly address a singular, unique pain point that's identified here. So not an existing, you're not, hacking an existing tech, you're really creating something new. For the budget justification, the limitations here are not to exceed $50,000. You have 2 months to spend that $50,000. Mary, you had a really nice overview previously. If you want to share with folks maybe some ideas of how they might enact that, it is not, we are not telling you how to use that. It is up to you to decide. But there were some really lovely examples that you shared last time. I'm wondering if you could, there you go. Thank you.
Sure. So one of the things that we know of is teachers, for example, often carry out professional development in the summertime to help them in the upcoming year. And so if you are involved in this planning project, you may not be able to be part of some of those initiatives, but your time is valuable. And so you could actually get a stipend for being part of this team. If you need help with transportation costs to be involved, if, for example, you are working with educational a technologist five states over, like Lindsay said, but you don't have access to broadband, and you can get a hotspot, right? These are the types of things that you could be asking for in this budget of $50,000. We want to make sure that what the budget does is lower the barrier for the team to be able to plan with each other.
Thank you. The spirit of this entire program is really to, as Mary said, and I couldn't have said it better, but just really to lower the barrier for collaboration. We understand and appreciate and respect educators' time, and we want to make sure that you are respected and that your time is put to the best possible use. And so you absolutely ought to be ensuring that each of the stakeholders on that proposal, are being awarded appropriately based on the amount of time that they're putting in and obviously their efforts towards this project. So hopefully that is clear in the budget justification. As with all of the proposals that go through NSF, there are the 2 merit review principles of intellectual merit and broader impact, which likely you already know about and have read about. There are the solicitation specific criteria. These are some questions that I would encourage you to consider as you pull together your planning grant, only in so much as you're thinking forward and hopefully going to be receiving a planning grant, because then for the full development grant, you would need to articulate with much more clarity specifically what it is that you're going to create. But we don't imagine that you're going to have answers to all of these at the get-go, right? This is really looking at that full development grant. But in thinking about this right now ahead of time, it will prepare you to think about what it is that you might need to pull together and what expertise you might need to have on your team in order to pull together a really robust, a really strong planning grant that then will hopefully get you to a development grant that hopefully will be an on-ramp to other supports throughout the foundation. Who knows? But that's the hope. So let's see. Okay, so with that, I do believe we're done with the presentation. Mare, did I miss anything there? Team, anything? Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. But I am going to, and I'm going to ask Hamad if we could stop the recording so we can